What's going on, everyone? TM24 here, and we are back with some more Marvel Snap content. Now, if it's your first time finding the channel, welcome. I hope you find this video entertaining and informative, as we are talking about one of the best decks, one of the most consistent decks that always seems to be around in the meta. And if you are a returning viewer, thank you for the continued support. I appreciate you here. My llama here appreciates you. But let's start talking about this Sera Control Deck that just seems to hang around and continue to get wins even as the meta changes. Now, a couple cards might change out here and there, but this is the pretty standard list of this deck. So let's talk about it a little bit. You can see here, we've got a couple of 1-drops. Now, when Kitty Pryde, came into the game and everyone got access to her, she seemed like a natural inclusion in this deck. She scales really well. Being able to get her down on 1 and then just kind of fit her in when she does oftentimes just feels really good. She can get super strong and is a huge source of power. Now, the other 1-drop you've got is Nova. Now, the reason you're only going with these 2 1-drops is because of Killmonger in this deck. Killmonger's great to counter your opponent's sunspots, their nebulas, things like that. And you can make sure that your Kitty Pryde stays safe by playing it after you play your Killmonger. So, nice inclusions in these 1-drops. Nova is going to buff everything else up and feels really strong in this deck as well. Now, let's move on to our 2-drops, and we've got a ton of them. We've got 5. So we've got Angela, Hitmonkey, Scarlet Witch, Sentinel, and Mysterio. So looking at these cards, Angela and Sentinel, they're awesome. They feel like really strong early game plays. Scarlet Witch as well, depending on the locations that are popping up. In this instance, if we had a Scarlet Witch, we could have taken care of Death's Domain, but as you saw, they played a Doc Ock, so, nothing we could do there. But it actually ended up working out in our favor. But that's what Scarlet Witch is there for, to kind of change some of those locations that would otherwise be hard for you to reach. Now, we talked about Angela. She's a great early option, as playing Kitty Pryde on top of her over and over again can feel like you're just going to win the game. Sentinel, again, another great early game drop, as you're refilling your hand and you're getting 3 power out there consistently. Now, our other 2-drops are Hitmonkey and Mysterio, and typically you want to play those together on the same turn. Turn 4, not a bad option, but I prefer to hold my Hitmonkey until turn 6 if possible, just because you can get the most value out of Hitmonkey that way. Mysterio, we know what Mysterio does. 4 power, but is also adding 2 other cards that will buff your Angela and will buff your Bishop, which we will talk about in a second here. So our 2-drops, we've got a bunch of them, which feels really good in this deck because you've almost always got something you can play. But let's get on to our 3-drops before we talk about the deck overall. Bishop and Killmonger. Bishop is going to scale really well in this deck. If you play Bishop on top of Angela, it feels like you've already won the game. I've said that over and over, but again, it just seems so strong. And you'll see it in this game here. We're able to get Angela down, we're able to get Bishop down, and we're just going to continue to buff those cards throughout the entirety of the game. Now, Killmonger, we talked about him a little bit. He's great to counter your opponent's 1-drops and to buff up your own stuff by taking out your own Nova. So Killmonger, again, a great inclusion. Now, our 4-drops, we've got 2 of them, and both of them, I would say, are answers to what your opponent has. So you've got Shang-Chi. We know what Shang-Chi does. You're countering anything huge that your opponent is putting out there. Enchantress has kind of been, a newer-ish inclusion in this deck. Ever since she got buffed, she's been nerfed back down to 5, but still a really solid option in this deck to counter things like Patriot, to counter those Devil Dinos, their Darkhawks, things like that. Enchantress is great at. Additionally, you can kind of use Enchantress to counter things even as small as an armor, as you could take away the armor and then still Killmonger or Shang-Chi, whatever is in that lane. So Enchantress feels awesome as well. And then our 5-drop, we know who it is. It's Sera. She's the only 5-drop in this deck, and she's huge because she's giving you those discounts and allowing you to play those huge turn 6s. So that's just kind of a brief overview of each card in this deck. But there are tons of cool little combinations. We talked about Angela and Bishop feeling like you've already won that lane. We talked about Mysterio Hitmonkey. That, again, feels really, really strong. We've got Enchantress, Killmonger, and, you can even toss in a Kitty Pryde or a Hitmonkey or something like that. If you've got Sera down, then you're going to get a ton of value out of those plays. So I think where this deck really, really excels and why it continues to hang around in the meta, even as new decks are coming in, new cards are coming in, is just because of its flexibility and its ability to put out huge amounts of power as well. Like we saw, we can get Angela and Bishop really, really strong. We can make sure that they are super, super powerful. Our Kitty Monkey, or our Kitty Pryde can absolutely go off. Our Hitmonkey, not our Kitty Monkey, our Hitmonkey, again, can go absolutely nuts. So you've got the ability to not only build throughout the game, but also have explosive turn 6s that your opponent just can't keep up with. And if they do play something huge, like a Venom or a Null, you can potentially take those out, whether with Enchantress or with, your Shang-Chi. You've got a couple of options there. So this deck is just, it's super, super flexible. You've got tons of ways to win. It always feels like you have a shot, regardless of what your opponent is playing. And you've got a good chance because you've always got something to play, and you can kind of tailor the game to how you want to win it. You can take advantage of, locations like the bar with no name because you do have Scarlet Witch. You can feel free to play your Kitty Pryde in there, knowing it's always coming back to your hand. So we'll walk through a couple of these games here, and we'll just kind of talk about our choices and why we did what we did. As you can see here, we're going Angela, Bishop, and, we're getting a Sentinel down. Angela, Bishop on one lane, like I said, feels like you've already won it. So that's what we're going to do here. Project Pegasus allowing us to get them both out early and to get a Sentinel down. Sentinel, again, refilling our hand, making sure we have cards that we can play. You can see here, we're picking up really solid options. We're picking up a Hitmonkey that we know can come down on turn 6. We've got a Shang-Chi ready to kind of answer anything they've got here. So you've just got tons and tons of flexibility, tons and tons of options, and they scale really, really well. So in this instance, what we're doing is we're going with we're playing a Sentinel, we're playing our Kitty Pryde onto our Angela lane to continue to buff Angela, and continuing to buff our Bishop while also refilling our hand. In this specific instance, I wanted to make sure that they didn't take something away from my Angela through like a Green Goblin or like a Debris. I didn't want them to fill that lane, which is why I played the Sentinel and the Kitty Pryde on that lane the last turn. And then this turn, as you can see, we're just continuing to play Sentinels and Kitty Pryde. It's super, super simple game plan, but it's really hard for them to keep up. We kind of gave up Flooded here, but we're not too worried about that. We're up 10 in Project Pegasus. We've got Sera. We're picking her up as well. We're just hoping that our Project Pegasus stays fairly clean here. We also didn't want to play on Angela too early, as we didn't want it to get Shang-Chi'd this turn. But Blue Marvel comes down for them, buffing everything that they've got going on. We got our Sera down, giving us some discounts. Now, we don't have, we've got Enchantress for their ongoing stuff, and we can take care of the negative zone. Yes, our Sentinel was kind of sitting there, low power. Our Sera only one. We're a little bit worried about that, but ultimately, Scarlet Witch, again, coming in clutch, allowing us to flip that location to something else, and getting our Kitty Pryde down there as well. Because we have priority, Enchantress is going to hit first, so Onslaught goes away, Blue Marvel goes away, and that really, really hurts their center lane here. Central Park comes out. No, nothing really there for us or against us. They play a Zero. They play a Titania and a Shana. A little bit different. They do take out our Kitty Pryde, but we're going to end up winning on power differential. And it just feels really good. You can win on power differential. You can win by taking away your opponent's win condition through the Enchantress, through the Shang-Chi. And you can just win on pure power. In this instance, Yondu's coming out, taking out our Nova. Honestly, if something is going to get hit by Yondu, Nova is probably the best option. You can see here, we've got a couple of different plays that we can make on 2. We're going to go with Sentinel just because we want to continue to refill our hand, and we want to save Scarlet Witch in case of a location that, we can't reach. So that's why we held back with the Scarlet Witch on that turn. Now seeing all 3 locations, we know that we can kind of just make whatever is the best play. Picking up Punisher from the camp is actually a pretty good play for us because we're just going to put that right on top of that Bucky Barnes location, knowing that they're probably going to continue to play cards there. They're going to have a minimum, of 2, probably even more than that. We pick up a Kitty Pryde. We pick up Angela. We're going to put Angela and another Sentinel down. We're starting to reach the point where it might not be as beneficial to play Kitty just because we don't have the turns to buff her, to keep buffing her. So that's why we went with Angela and Sentinel in this turn. They play a Carnage. Their Carnage is going to be super, super strong coming in, and Wolverine hits that same location. They're up 18-5. They end up snapping on us, and it is turn 5, and we've got some work to do here. We're considering Bishop and a 2-drop. We're considering Sera. We have options here. It's just a matter of which is the right one. You can see here, sometimes it's tough to figure out what you want to do, but you've got to give yourself a shot. And I typically go with, if you can get Sera down, get her down. Those discounts are huge, so it might be, you might be behind in the midterm, just because Sera's only 4 power, but you can always come back on the back end and hopefully take advantage of those discounts that you get from her to win yourself the game. Final turn comes up, and we get a little bit lucky here. We do hit our Shang-Chi, which can take care of that death, and that is the route that we instantly look at. We think that's probably the way that we're going to go. Again, Sentinels, we can just continue to play. We've got 2 more energy. Scarlet Witch can come out, Hit Monkey can come out, and look at that. We're playing 4 cards. We're taking away 12 power from them, and we're buffing our Angela lane, hopefully out of reach for what they can do. They end up putting a Chavez down. I know instantly that is not going to be enough there because we're adding 6 without Angela even getting buffed. So Sentinel comes down, buffing our Angela. We've already won that lane. We've already won Los Diablos. Now we're just waiting for the game to finish and, take our victory here. Our 4Q victory because they thought they had us. Our Hit Monkey only end up being 6 power, but a lot of times 6 power is, it's enough. In this case, that's all we needed. So I think this is the last game I've got here for you. As you can see, we've got a bunch of 2-drops ready to go. We've even got Killmonger, but unfortunately we don't have Nova or Kitty Pryde. So we've kind of just got to pass on this turn and get ready for the next one. They come through with a Sunspot, and we feel okay because we still have our Killmonger ready to go. We see Stark Tower. You want to take advantage of locations like that. They play a Nebula. We get our Angela down. Now we think, do we play a 2-drop, or maybe do we just go ahead and drop this Killmonger early? Wouldn't be such a bad idea. We take care of the Sunspot. We take care of the Nebula, as long as they don't Cosmo or armor one of them. Luckily they didn't, and all of a sudden we've flipped this game. They no longer have priority. They no longer have the lead. We are in a really, really good spot. Now we have the option here to go Mysterio, Hit Monkey, but we're also kind of considering just Kingpin. He's 4 power. We did pick him up from the hub, so a free card, might as well get him down, knowing that we have Sera for next turn. And with Sera, with Hit Monkey, with Mysterio coming through, we know that we can have a really, really big turn 6. So that's ultimately why we ended up going with Kingpin. Kingpin is also, I know he's not in this deck, but just to talk about him a little bit, he's a little bit scary as a card just because, you don't want to be pulled into that lane. So a lot of the times people are going to play on that lane because of fear of something like an arrow or, something like that. Maybe a Magneto pulling cards into that lane and destroying them. So now we're just planning our last turn. We know that Stark Tower is being heavily contested. You can see in this game we are way behind. They're playing the obviously the new deck that everyone's playing, which means they probably got Hulk ready to go, and that's what we are thinking that they're going to have, which is why we put Shang-Chi onto that Kingpin lane. Other than that, we're able to just play a few cards, and hopefully our Hit Monkey and our Sentinel are enough to win that last Titan lane. The last plays come through. They play on Stark Tower with Wasp. We didn't even go for it. Hulk comes down on the exact lane we thought it was going to, and we know that we've got this game locked up again. You can see Angela still gets buffed. Our Mysterio comes out. Shang-Chi comes out to take care of Hulk, Sentinel, and Hit Monkey, and we're going to get another big dub here. We had none of those lanes going into turn 6, and we ended up flipping 2 of them quite easily. So I think that's just, that's just what this deck can do. Super, super flexible, super, super strong. All right, so just a couple final words about this deck. Like I said, I've got a video coming where we're doing another meta review, and this deck is always in that review, always in the top 2 or 3. You'll see that video when it comes out. I think it's going to come out in in maybe tomorrow, once this video actually goes live, and you'll see this deck on there because it is just, it's so flexible, it's so strong. You've got answers, you've got power. This deck kind of has it all, and I can see why it hangs around. So super, super strong deck. It's really not all that expensive either. I know a couple of the cards, maybe people don't have access to the Hit Monkey. Sera can be, but most people can pick up Sera fairly quickly. Overall, this deck is super accessible. Like I said, really, really flexible. You've got answers, you've got power, you kind of have it all. So if you've got the chance to play this deck, play it, learn it, because it can definitely, win you games, help you rank up. And it's a deck that seems to, always hang around and always be able to compete regardless of what your opponent's playing. You saw we took out Galactus, we took out Destroy decks, we took out, the new deck that everyone is playing. So this deck can kind of do it all. And if you've got the shot, hey, play it, learn it, and just be ready to rank up. Now, if you've hung around this long, I really appreciate the support. Now would be a good time to go ahead and subscribe and like the video if you haven't already. And be on the lookout for that, that meta review that's going to be coming out. Like I said, I think it's going to be tomorrow. But until next time, have some fun.